Greetings, wargamers. Welcome to my channel and welcome all new subscribers. In this video, I would like to show you guys some of the new sci-fi projects that I have going on, specifically for the game Stargrave. However, these sci-fi projects could be used in a variety of games. Okay, so this is a video about junk. It's a junk build, one of the MJ junk builds. Before we go to the craft bench and start looking at all the stuff that I'm doing, basically one of the parts that I enjoy most of the hobby is painting my miniatures and building stuff, building things from anything that I collect, right? It's more of a recycling thing. Instead of ending in a landfill, I can use it, and you know, we can create all this cool stuff, and more importantly, it's terrain that I need to be functional as a gamer, right? I need terrain that's, if it's sci-fi terrain, we want to have raised platforms so models can go up, and of course there has to be connection points, whether they're ladders or staircases or whatever it is, but in a way that models can utilize that terrain for many different things. So let's go to the craft bench and I'll show you guys what I'm doing now. And these are some raised platforms for upcoming sci-fi games. So most of my junk builds are very spontaneous. I begin with an idea in my head, something I want to create, and I take a bunch of stuff from my junk bin, bottles and caps and anything that has interesting shapes, and I spread it out on my bench and just slowly begin to fit them together and see how different things, what I can create with different things. This is also a time where I decide how I'm going to glue certain things together. So as I begin experimenting with all the different shapes and things that I will use in the project, I also, in this case, for the raised platforms, I cut up some pieces of cardboard, which will be my main platforms, and then play around with them, see how many different kinds of shapes I can create with the platforms, you know, how well they go together, what heights do I need, can I create some vertical height with all this, things like that. This is all the time that I use to create, you know, to experiment. This process continues until I find how things are going to go together. Now, to decorate the tops of my platforms, I use this mesh tape. It's like a vinyl tape, and I can cut this up and use certain adhesives to glue it on top of the platforms. This is also a time when I begin to play around with ramps, ladders, will there be any stairwells, those kinds of things I have to decide early on. And this here, that's what you see there. I find that I can often put bottles together. I unfortunately have to take a lot of medication due to my heart and lung issues, but this has given me a lot of different bottles and things that I can use for these projects. These make really good supports and piping and all that stuff. So all right, here, one of the things that I always check is to see if this new terrain is going to interact with my old terrain. And that is one of my modular sci-fi walls with the opening doors, and I need to see if these platforms are going to work with it. That's very important. Again, I play around with what are going to be the areas that I can connect. I will have to make modular connections so that I can build like a platform, a raised platform. Also, what I like from what's going on here is that now I can add other platforms and maybe make vertical height. So vertical structures, as you can see here. So this is very cool because that means models can go up, down, around, and that's what I aim for. This is another way that this structure can be put together. So I have to figure out how all these things are going to connect. Clothespins, I love using clothespins. I use them in a variety of ways. Clothespins can be used, as I am discovering, to also connect these structures so that they are, in fact, modular. You know, that's a big thing for me. Terrain has to come apart. And you can see here the connection point with one of those clothespins as it connects to one of the other platforms. I do have to decide how to camouflage that, though. So that is a consideration. But it's pretty good. I think this terrain's going to work. So as I said before, you know, pill bottles and stuff. Between Julie and I, we have a tons of them. And so I can put them together in various ways to get different structures. Cylindrical structures, like I said, piping, you know, maybe columns to support things. So these bottles are a very cool addition to the junk build. I also use cans, Sprite cans. They're very easy to cut. And here what you see is I'm starting to decorate the bottom of the platform. It's going to have sort of that industrial look to it. So it's going to have a lot of piping and like supports and all kinds of things, complexity in there. And my favorite piping material are straws. I use straws in a variety of ways. I cut them up and I use the little bendy parts as elbows. And I also use old model sprues, cut them up and make junctions for the straws. So I can like put two of them together. And in this way, I can really make some complex piping. My Dremel is a very important tool. I make holes with it to fit the straws in. You can see a hole right here, and I can make them quite large by just maneuvering the bit very carefully. And then I can fit my straws through here, and that will really secure them to the terrain. So my Dremel is indispensable in a lot of these projects. And here is the straw piping I'm talking about. I've shown this before. I basically make complex networks of pipes by just cutting the straws different lengths and using the little bendy parts as elbows. Here I restrain a straw with a piece of clothespin. I just take the clothespins apart and I use the half that you see here. It has those nice notches in them, perfect for holding straws in place and securing them to different things. My favorite glue for this kind of stuff is hot glue. It works very well. I also make holes in the can with my X-Acto knife very, very carefully. You have to be really careful with that. But I then insert smaller bottles or tubes that I may have in my junk box and then create like additional piping and stuff this way. This is inspired a lot from movies like Aliens. You guys remember like the way the complex were built inside, right? Also like the interior of ships, that kind of thing. One thing, the little pieces on soda cans are very useful for holding straws and for creating additional places where pipes can go through. This really gives strength to the terrain piece. So I've been using these a lot. I cut a slit in the can very carefully, then glue everything. And here you see how that piece restrains your straw, your pipe. So you create much stronger terrain using these techniques. And that's something that I do a lot now when I'm doing like industrial terrain. For the top of my platforms, I obviously have to decorate them. So I use that tape, that vinyl tape I spoke of before. And here, I do not use hot glue. I mean, hot glue just doesn't cut it for this. So I have to use other adhesives, and I use contact cement. That can sometimes be a little messy. I don't like the residue that it leaves. So I'm using another kind of cement that bonds plastic. And this comes with a little brush. One note is work in a ventilated area. So also for the platform, I use craft sticks a lot in these projects in order to strengthen things, especially cardboard. I will make a rim of craft sticks, and this really helps to create a frame around the platform. And then I have my models around, models that I want to use, and I check the different bases to see if they fit well. You know, can they move around the platform? Things like that. So it's useful to have the models around to compare. And you probably recognize this as my 5 parsecs crew. And just seeing how they would be able to utilize this. I continue to make supports with my clothespins, and I unite them together in different ways to take advantage of shape. And I make sort of a tripod arrangement for the platform. These are all the adhesives I use. I use quite a few. Be very, very careful whenever you use any adhesives to work in ventilated areas. Make sure you know what hazards these things can have for you. Here I just make a little ledge where one of the platforms is going to connect, and I continue to add these craft sticks to add complexity to the terrain piece. You can paint these like metal. I can add rivets later, all that stuff. And then I work on the second platform, and this is the second platform on its way to be built. These projects don't take a lot of time, which is great. They take more time, I think, to figure out how they're going to fit together than anything else. And very interesting are all the plastics available to us today. You know, all kinds of things for terrain. So that's pretty much it for today. These are going to be a series of short videos. If people are interested, I can show different things that I'm doing to make my terrain modular, to make it strong, to make it so that you know, my models can actually interact with it. That's very, very important for me as a gamer, is to have the terrain usable by models. I am working on a system of pipes that very large pipes that would work in a industrial scenario, but they're all modular. And I use like the top parts of the plastic caps, soda, whether they're like the 2-liter soda bottles, whatever it is, plastic ones, just saw off the little neck for the cap, and then I connect that to my pipes, and then have found that I can actually make a lattice work of giant pipes, and then add catwalks and whatever later on. And this will be some really cool industrial terrain. I could connect this to one of my other buildings that I made, one of my junk builds, and it could have this giant pipe just coming out, you know, some kind of industrial facility or whatever. So possibilities are in this. If you guys are interested in these videos, let me know, and then I'll know that I should post a few, maybe make it into a short series, short videos. And we're going to be looking at vehicles also for Stargrave. I want to do some land speeder like vehicles and shuttles for Stargrave. We're going to need that in some of the scenarios. All right, folks, thank you very much, and thank you kindly for all your comments, and for all your kind comments, actually, and for all the support that subscribers have given to the channel recently. So thank you very much, and we'll talk very soon. Now, continuing with junk builds.